So just as all of our speakers come to the front, have a think. And we've got some roving mics. So if you do have a question, stick your hand up really nice and clearly so I can see. I haven't got my glasses. And we will see who wants to ask anything. There is a hand right at the back and right at the front. So microphone people, you're going to get your exercise. Could you just say who you are and then ask your question?
Hi, my name's Kate. I work in research comms at the university. It's a question for all of the panel. What's your favourite pub and why?
Great, thank you. Should we have, there was another question down here. Yes, so just take a couple and then we'll come back. Can you speak into the microphone? Thank you.
My name's Ian Pyle. I'm retired. I want to ask about the pubs. Is it just an English or a UK phenomenon? Because I don't see any problem with pubs in the United States or in the other countries in Europe. I don't know much about further afield. Is it just a UK problem?
Okay, so we've got a pub theme on this first round. Victoria, do you want to answer that question?
Yeah,
and then
sure.
Maybe everyone can share their favourite pubs with why.
Yeah, I will admit that I'm very focused on UK pubs, which are slightly different from American pubs. American pubs, there is an argument of whether you would call them pubs rather than bars, but American pubs have really been fueled recently by the craft beer movement, which is really big in America, even bigger than it is in the UK. And I think in most places, pubs are doing really well in America. I think there are still the same geographical distinctions in that city pubs are doing better than rural pubs, but I think it probably is a healthier scene than it is at the moment in the UK. I'm hoping, as I say, that this particular specific financial challenge that pubs are challenged with at the moment will hopefully just become a small blip in the history of pubs. But yeah, it is a real challenge for pubs at the moment. Yeah, and I think if you look across Europe, we're doing some work in Europe as well, looking at bar culture across Europe, also in China and New Zealand. But we're seeing that pubs in the UK are struggling a lot more at the moment.
And your favourite pub?
Oh, I don't want to say one. I have to say my favourite pub, I'm going to say, is the Golden Ball in York. It's because I'm a member of the Consumer Cooperative there, so I'm going to say, I have to give it a plug. But there are many fantastic pubs. And I will say the pub in my local village, the Grapes in Slingsby, is absolutely fantastic as well. But we are very lucky in York to have plenty of pubs to go to.
Very diplomatic answer. Yeah.
We're going down the line.
Yeah.
So I live in Malton, so I'm not far from you.
Okay.
So I should support Brass Castle, which is like the independent brewery in Malton.
Yeah.
So yeah, Brass Castle's pub.
Yeah.
Hope you're all writing these down. Zoe.
My favourite pub is the pub I worked in for 3 consecutive summers, called The Angel in Rotherhithe. It's right by the river. It's great. I very much agree about being that community spirit, and you know, people who are on their own can walk into a pub and either just be on their own but be surrounded by people, or strike up a conversation with their friendly barmaid or whoever. Yeah, so that gets my vote.
Well, I just moved to York. I've moved to Dunnington, which is just outside York, and I have to put a vote in for the local pub there, which is Cross Keys, because you can walk to it and it's for the local community. So,
Yeah. And location, as I said,
Yeah.
is massively important.
Great, thank you. Some more questions. Right, we have a lady over here, and then we'll come to you, and then to you.
Thank you. I've got a couple of advantages I've spotted in pubs over screens. One is that you do actually get outside and you speak to people face to face. We know those two things are really good for people. So my question to all of you is, can we make pubs good enough that we get people off screens?
I think
This is going to be interesting for John. Let's take a couple more questions. And then, there was yes, this gentleman here. Please. I don't want to set you two up in a fight.
No, we've decided we like pubs best.
Yeah.
Right, thank you. It was very interesting. All 4 were very interesting. It's about the pubs. I'm not really a drinker, but me and my mum used to go to the pubs for the lunches. We went to practically every York pub, And we used to eat like I used to do. And the one that defeated me even was the Mason's Arms.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it still does big. Does it do huge big?
It still does big pies, apparently.
Does it? Yeah, does it still do it? It was about 20 years ago we went to these pubs when my mum was still alive and capable of going around these pubs. And we used to see some right interesting people. Well, we used to go to notorious ones and you just see one old lady in the pub, no sort of rough at all. Lunches, if you want to go to the pubs in York and you won't have any trouble, lunch is the best time, I think. And
is that a top tip for everybody?
I think so. You don't go at night because it's a bit, yeah. And the answer to the European, the reason why Europeans are better, they have bars there, they don't have pubs, bars, and they cater for children more. They do a lot better now in Britain, but never used to be so good for kids. And I think the beer's better in the European beer's more. You have cake, you have. Yeah. European beer's better.
It's all heating up now.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, one more comment here and then we'll come back to our panel.
Hi, I'm John Pyle. Regarding the explicability problem, how does something which passes the explicability test count as artificial intelligence? Isn't it just the codification of stuff that someone made up?
Right, okay. Congratulations on being the first question not about pubs. So why don't we just...
My favourite pub is the Slaughtered Lamb from American Werewolf in London.
Excellent, thank you. Let's come to this question about screens and pubs first, and maybe that can be a conversation between the two of you, and then we'll come to your...
I might need to ask a clarification, but yeah, go on.
It's very interesting with as I talk to different generations of pub goers, because when I was younger, when I was... in the nicest way, when I was courting, when I was looking for gentlemen, I would go to the pub and do it. But now most people you talk to, if they're 18, 20, etc., they'll flick as they do things. So one of the things we've really lost, I think, is people actually going and looking for relationships in pubs as well, which is really sad. I think pubs have always been very much, and the only way pubs will continue to survive and flourish is by giving people something they can't get at home. So by giving them something they can't get on a screen. And I think that's what we have to do, is to try and think, well, what can we do that's not on a screen? And you said yourself, that it's those mental health things. I mean, I have been unwell since the beginning of 2024, and I feel very ashamed as a pub researcher that I have not been in a pub in 2024, and I feel terribly ashamed. And I am dying to get down the pub to find out all the local gossip and what's going on. And so for me, there is a real reason to get away from my screen and to get into the pub. But yes, I think we have to give people something that they can't get in their screens. I'm not 100% sure what that is at the moment. Maybe our person who does more screen work can tell us.
Yeah, I don't know. I prefer pubs. I wonder whether meeting people halfway then would be a sensible thing. So there are screens in pubs already, right? They're fruit machines, quiz machines and that. I've been at pub quizzes where they're quite technology mediated as well, and there are whole companies that offer pub quiz systems that you play on your phone or whatever. So maybe there's bits where you sort of tempt them in with the technology, but remind them that you're there to have a pint and a chat is the real reason.
And a lot of people do go on screens in the pub. There was a bit of a cry when I was in the pub a few months ago, and the Wi-Fi went down, and because you're having a conversation in the pub, and if there's some work that looks at pub banter, for example, and how people bounce ideas around and the type of styles of arguments that go on in pubs. But suddenly, if you've got a phone and you can actually go, no, you're wrong, that really enhances an argument in a pub in a good and bad ways. So I think there is a place for screens, as you say, in pubs. We just need to get people in there to begin with to realise how good it is to be with people. And actually a lot of people I talk to, younger people who perhaps aren't drinkers, who've gone through COVID especially and have spent a lot of time on their own, they never really got into the pub and going out culture, not just pubs, but not going to restaurants, not going to anything. So I think it's going to take a bit of time to get people back into that socialising and feeling safe and confident doing it.
Can I add something? I think the important thing about the pub now is it is the heart of the community. I think with people working more and more at home, they need spaces to go and see other people. And so I think there is, particularly in rural communities, the pub is becoming a really important centre. And it can somehow offer other things, apart from having a drink. It's going there to talk to other people, to talk about current issues. So I think how that focus can be emphasised is quite important.
And there are a lot of pubs now offering work from pub packages. So you'll get coffee and tea through the day, and then you get a pint at the end of your day when you want to start drinking. But also stupid things like just having enough plugs, having good enough Wi-Fi, I think, can get people in. I spend a lot of time thinking and talking and going in pubs, but I still like to just go and work in a pub and go and read in a pub. There has to be that place for everyone in the pub.
And they're also warm spaces
They
in
are.
the winter when people haven't got anywhere to keep warm.
Yeah.
So lots of reasons to go to a pub.
Yeah, I actually saw that on Twitter today. Someone said I'm cold, and someone said go to the pub, it'll be warm. And generally it is, yeah.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting as well that in a panel that is talking about our future lives, we've very quickly in the questions reverted to this very basic human connection and the need for that, whatever else is going on around us, however technology is evolving. So...
Yes, the question. Yeah, so let me just make sure I've got it right. So you're saying if you can explain what an artificial intelligence system is doing, is it still artificially intelligent? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah. So then you would say, so for the rule-based systems, the knowledge-based systems, you say it isn't really artificial intelligence because you can quite clearly explain what it's doing. So, okay. So, I mean, I guess if you're still automating what it would take intelligence to do, if you go back to the original definition, I would say it is still artificial intelligence. The fact that you can explain the rationale, you know, in human terms or artificial terms, doesn't
that
get
mean that everything
get away.
that a computer does is therefore artificial intelligence?
Well, I guess that would turn on your understanding of what it takes intelligence to do. So there may be rote tasks that don't take intelligence. So, you know, if you think about intelligence in terms of decision making or using language or improving all that sort of thing, then no. But I think it would probably get down to semantics at the end of the day.
Sounds like this might be a conversation we will pick up afterwards, but thank you for the question. And actually we are running pretty much at time now, and thanks to some very fascinating contributions. We are out of time. There's probably time for one more question. This gentleman here.
Yeah, Hewi from POPs. About clinician and AI. My question is, as a researcher, like, what are the risks, like, involved in, like, people relying more on, like, non-standard, like, AI-generated results in terms of, like, getting advice from a clinician, like, preferring that over what, like, a standard clinician might say. Another question is that, and I relate that to your introduction about, that bias about AI and, the garbage in, garbage out, racism in, racism out. So let's assume a case, someone visiting, a white person visiting a clinician in the UK, similar conditions compared to someone like maybe in Malawi, where, AI doesn't really have like a large set of data to, to process and, to make a very useful and informed condition. But there are two patients in the UK and Malawi. They both have like similar situations and both have, maybe because they are elites, upper class, have the tendency to like, rely on that AI result. What are those risks? And the fact that the person in AI, the person in Malawi, because there are not a lot of strong data, but are there like the possibility that they both have like the same result, and how does the clinician, really play, between those situations? Thank you.
Okay, so there's quite a lot to unpack there. So to take the first question, which was what are the implications of relying on AI instead of a human clinician? Is that what you mean? So say you've got something like ChatGPT and you're trying to diagnose something, or I mean there are limitations to the technology. It's not always right. It can be wrong. There may be gaps in the training data that mean for your specific condition it's not actually going to be that accurate, or some of those gaps may be due to bias. It could be that there isn't enough information captured about a particular demographic group, and so that the results aren't actually that good for you personally. So there's that set of concerns. Some people may prefer to interact with an AI system rather than with a human clinician. We've heard anecdotes about this from some of our project partners, that actually, if that were an option, they would feel less judged. Clinicians have their own biases often. they make snapshot judgments according to what you're wearing. You know, are you coming in with a load of carrier bags? You know, we've heard these stories. So there are some reasons why you might actually prefer that route. But I think there are questions around accuracy. I think, you know, there are worries that you think that because it's a very complex, sophisticated machine, it's always going to be right, and it isn't. And with ChatGPT, for example, sometimes it's wrong, but very plausible and very convincing. So there are lots of issues there. And also for some people, you know, they go the other route and say, well, I just really want a human, you know, I actually want to talk to a human who gets me and understands me. And so that's another way of looking at it. And then what was the second question? Could you just succinctly say, so you've got Malawi, you've got England, you've got 2 patients that are sort of alike, is that it? And then what's the problem? What's the question?
Yeah, you know, for example, in Malawi, there are not a lot of data to rely on, and how do we trust the system? Because there is the possibility it's giving the same result because it's like the same situation. But that information for the Malawi patient,
is irrelevant or we're wrong? Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a huge issue, and I think that's why we really need to be very, very careful that the data sets that are used are representative for the population that they're being used on. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, well, the topic of this panel was our future lives. So one-word answers, please, to wrap this up. Do you feel hopeful for our future lives? Let's go down the panel.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, definitely. That's 2 words. Good.
Hopeful. Yeah. Cautiously hopeful.
Cautiously hopeful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
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 Yes.
Yes. So there you go, an optimistic note to leave you all with. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming, and special thanks, of course, to our speakers. Thank you very much for joining us. Round of applause for all of you, please.